I'm about to show you exactly how your Social Security benefits are taxed. And the good news is it only takes 3 steps to figure out. Hi, my name is Jacob Duke, and as the owner of a retirement planning firm, I know how much this matters when it comes to planning out your income in retirement because most just don't understand how Social Security taxation works, and some think they're paying tax on all of their benefits, and others think that they're not paying any tax at all. So it's important to know what I'm about to show you because it could drastically change when you take your benefits and how you distribute money out of your portfolio in retirement. Now, before we walk through these 3 steps, I want to share 2 important things with you first. The first thing is that if Social Security is your only form of income in retirement, you're not going to pay any tax on any of that. So yes, I'm going to repeat myself. You heard that right. If Social Security is your only form of income, meaning you don't have IRA distributions, you don't have a pension or any sort of working income or earned income that you might have coming in, if Social Security is it, whether you're married or single, you're not going to pay any tax on any of it. So that's the first thing, and we're going to show you why here in just a moment as I go through an example. The second thing is at most, even if you do have other sources of income, IRA distributions, pensions, whatever it might be, at most 85% of your Social Security would ever be taxed. So not all of your benefits are subject to taxation. At most 85% of your benefits would be taxed. So those are 2 important things to know. If you don't have any other sources of income, you're not going to pay any tax on it. If you have other sources of income, you could be paying tax on up to 85% of your benefits. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the first step to see what it is to figure out how your Social Security is taxed. And it is figuring out your provisional, or what's often referred to as your combined income. Now, what you can see here on screen is if you go to the Social Security Administration website, you can see that you have a simple formula there to figure out what they call combined income is. Again, it could be called provisional income. Use whatever word you want to use. They're the same thing, but it's really simple. You take 1/2 of your Social Security benefits, you add any other additional taxable income to that. But one important thing here is you have to also add in any non-taxable interest to this as well. So that could be something like a municipal bond interest. You've got to add that back in here. Even though you're not going to get taxed on that muni bond interest, you have to factor it into your Social Security taxation equation. So that is the formula to be able to figure out your combined income. And that's the first step in determining how much of your Social Security is taxable. The second step is we have to then take that provisional or that combined income and we have to run it through the provisional income brackets. Again, what you can see here on screen is that there are different brackets for both married and also single people. So depending on what your marital status looks like, you will use the appropriate one for you. But what this is this has nothing to do with how much your total income tax will be one day. These are completely separate brackets. And all this is doing is taking the combined or the provisional income that we just figured out. We're taking that number and then we're going to run it through these brackets. And just know that these are kind of progressive brackets. It's not like an all or nothing thing. So if you look at the first one, let's say you're single. The first one is $0 to $25,000. That's how much fits in that first bracket. And what you see there is 0% is next to it. That means that 0% of that $25,000 is subject to taxation. Now, the second bracket is from $25,000 to $34,000, and that means any dollars that are in that particular bracket, it comes out to $9,000 that fit in there if you're single. Half of that amount, which would be $4,500, half of that is subject to taxation. So let's just do some quick math here as an example, and we'll walk through a true example here in a moment. Let's say you have $30,000 that ends up being your provisional income. So the first $25,000, we subtract that out. None of that is subject to taxation, which leaves $5,000 left over. That would be from 25 until 30. That fits right in that middle bracket there that you see. That means you take half of 5,000, which is $2,500. What that does is that tells us $2,500 of your Social Security amount, whatever that was in this situation, that is how much is subject to taxation, not all of your Social Security benefits. So that's the second step. We've got to take our provisional income and then run it through the income brackets that we just looked at. Again, depending on your marital status, you might have to run them through the single side, or you might have to do them married filing jointly. And then the final step is we take what our total Social Security, our total taxable amount of Social Security is. We take what we figured out here, and then we add that back to our other taxable income sources. So again, we add this back to our IRAs or our pension income or any sort of earned income, add that back in, and then we can run that through our normal brackets on our 1040. Okay, so that's the three-step process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this. I'm going to set up an example, and then we're going to run through that together really quickly. All right, so we're back, and we've got John's sample here. He's the person we're going to be looking at for this one, just as an example to kind of put some numbers to what we looked at originally in terms of the steps we've got to go through. A key to know here is he's single, so we're going to be using the single brackets there on the provisional income when we get to step 2. But step 1, we've got to figure out what his combined income is. So let's look at his income numbers here first, and then we can determine what that looks like. So for Social Security, he is getting $30,000 per year, which is about $2,500 per month. He's got a pension that's really small. It's $5,000 per year coming in. He's also got an IRA that he takes $1,000 out every single month, and that's $12,000 a year. His total income for the year is $47,000. So now we know what his total income is. Let's find his combined income. So if we remember how to do that, we have to take 1/2 of the Social Security amount. So that'd be $15,000. And then we have to add in the other income amount. So it's $5,000 for the pension, and then that is $12,000 for his IRA distributions. So 15 plus 5 plus 12, that equals 32. So his combined income or provisional income is $32,000. Okay, so now that we have the first step completed, we've got to run through the provisional income brackets. I'm going to throw those back up on screen here. That way you can look at those. And by the way, if you want a copy of these, I've got a data sheet for you that I'll happily send over to you. My email should be down in the description. You can just shoot me a quick email. Hey, Jacob, I'd love to see the provisional income brackets or the document that you've got or you've used in the video. Send it over to me. Happily send it over to you. It's completely free for you to use. Okay, so the first thing is, remember, he's single. So we have to use the correct brackets. So for a single person, the provisional income brackets are 0 to 25,000. The second bracket is from 25,000 to 34,000, and then from 34 and above. So let's do this really quick. Let's do the math on it. So if we got $32,000, that's our combined income. The first 25,000, 0% of that amount is subject to taxation. Okay, so the first 25, none of that is taxable. Now we have 7,000 left over, right? And that is less than what would max out the second bracket. So we've got 25, 32 is less than 34. So 7,000, 1/2 of that, so 50% of that amount is subject to taxation, which is $3,500. Okay, so that's the second step. We just figured out how much of his $30,000 of Social Security income he has. He's got $30,000 coming in, but only paying tax or only that much is subject to taxation. So maybe you're seeing some important things here. Maybe you're seeing how beneficial Social Security could be if you don't have really large income sources outside of Social Security. So we're paying a tax on, or this much is subject to taxation. $3,500 is subject to taxation, even though he's getting $30,000 of Social Security income. Okay, so now that we know how much of his Social Security is taxable, what we got is $3,500. We add this back to the $5,000 and the $12,000, and that gives us, what is that, 18,000? No, gives us 20,500. That is his total AGI now. Okay, so 20,500. You take your 3,500, add 5, add 12. That is your new AGI. And so what you see is you're only going to have 20,500 on your tax return at the top number, even though you've made $47,000. So a lot of people think that, hey, I've got this Social Security income coming in, I'm going to pay tax on all of this. That might not be correct. You've got to factor in your other sources of income. You've got to do this calculation to see what it might look like for you. And what you've found is less than half of your total income is actually subject to taxation. So if we did this, and let's say that John, he's 65, okay, or over 65, so he gets a little bit of extra standard deduction for himself. What that does is that put his standard deduction, I think it's at $16,550 for 2024, so $16,550 for 2024. If we take that amount minus that amount, I think that puts us at $39,550 of total taxable income. Once you subtract out that minus that, AGI minus standard deduction equals this is his taxable income amount, $3,950. That would all be at the 10% bracket. So $395 is his total taxable income based on that much money. So you can see his tax rate is well less than 1% of how much he's actually paying. And that's all because of how Social Security taxation works. And the reason that this is so important is because whenever you think about where you want to pull money from in retirement out of your different accounts, hopefully you have more than just a tax deferred IRA, you can decide how to piece this together based on this calculation we just went through. And I want to make another point as well. Having more money outside of your tax deferred accounts is crucial to being able to have flexibility in terms of where your income comes from, and then also how much money you're going to pay tax on in the future. If you like this video, let me know in the comments, because I want to make more about this and actually run through different examples on what happens if you add more income to the IRA distributions here. What if instead of 12,000 you take 25,000? If you want to see a video like that, let me know in the comments below, because what you can do then is you can kind of start filling up certain tax brackets and know what the break point is before you go into the next tax bracket. I think it'd be fun to show you. And if this was helpful, just let me know in the comments. Thanks. We'll see you next time.